James L. Parker, and I was born in Bourbon, Indiana, and graduated there, lived there.
When were you born?
Oh, November 30th, 1928.
November 30th, 1929.
28.
28.
Born and raised in Bourbon, Indiana, and graduated from there.
How about your family?
My father was a school teacher there till I got through school, and then he retired.
And brothers and sisters?
I have one brother and two sisters that have passed on. I was the youngest.
You are the youngest.
So we got all four of us through school and quit.
So family of education because
Right.
your father, right?
Right. My two older sisters taught school too for a while.
So when did you graduate high school?
1946.
And what was your plan to do after the graduation?
I really didn't plan too far ahead. I went to International Business College in Fort Wayne after that.
International business what?
Business College.
Oh.
It was a one-year business college, not a degree, just business. And then I worked at a local factory and worked for a bus company. Anyway, then when I was drafted.
When was it?
They took me in November 28th of 50.
You were drafted?
Yes.
But before you were drafted, you knew that the Korean War broke out, did you?
I knew about it, but it didn't mean anything to me. I wasn't.
You didn't know anything about Korea?
Nothing. Well, I knew it was there. I didn't. I don't know if I could have found it on a map at the time. Probably not. But anyway, I wasn't ready to go, so they had to draft me.
So what happened to you after you were drafted?
Well, November 28th, they took me to Camp Atterbury, Indiana, and then sent me down to Camp Heartbreak Ridge, Kentucky, and I started my basic training.
What kind?
Infantry.
And how long?
It was a 13 weeks basic, but I had, my father passed away then after I'd been in about 6 weeks. So they gave me a leave to go home, or I forget, about 10 or 15 days. And then I had to go back. When I went back, I was, of course, ahead of my class or out of my class, so they made me wait for another class to catch up. So instead of making me do it all over, they made me sit in the barracks and goof off for about 3 weeks until the class caught up with where I had been in my training, even though I probably could have used more training. But so I just pulled details around the barracks and fed the furnace and stuff like that for about 3 weeks. And it was a different company, different thing. So I went till they finished their 13 weeks.
And were you aware that you might end up in Korea at the time?
Well, I was, but I didn't believe it ever happened.
You didn't want to believe it.
I didn't believe it till they started shooting at me. Let's see. We had after we finished there. Oh, when I went home for my father's funeral, the Red Cross, they sent somebody to tell me about it, and I guess they must have furnished the transportation or bus fare or something.
Tell you about what?
My father died. So, and at the same time, someone had stolen my wallet. So here I was with no wallet, no identification, no money. So some of the guys took up a little collection for me so I could just get home. Then I went home for the funeral and stayed a few days and then came back and started with this new basic. So it was quite an experience.
And then what happened after that? after basic training?
After basic training, they gave us a 30-day leave. We went home, and he assigned me to FECOM, which is Korea. And after the 30 days, I took a train from northern Indiana out to Seattle. Stayed at Seattle a few days at Fort Lawton. And then we got on a ship called the Munimori. And about 8 hours out into the bay, Seattle, Puget Sound, I guess it is, we hit a tanker broadside. We were all on deck, and it started getting foggy, so they told us to get below, so we all went down in our bunks. Then we heard this big crash, and we had hit this tanker broadside.
Oh.
It's got a big gash down the side of the ship, and so they turned around and back to Seattle, and then we waited a few days for a new ship. So then it was 2 weeks to Korea, or to Japan.
When was it? When did you leave from Seattle?
May 21st is when the shipwreck was.
May 25th.
No, 21st of 51. I have a picture of newspaper article from the shipwreck, and it was dated, the dates were on there, May 21st.
How was the sail?
It was pretty good trip all the rest of the way. I didn't have any trouble.
No seasick?
Oh yes, I got seasick, but after about 2 days I was all right, and then it was fine. Yeah, I got seasick going and coming.
And how long did you stay in Japan?
Oh, probably 5 days or so. We landed at Yokohama, and then took buses, I think, to Camp Drake in Tokyo. Then I think they were trying to get us back in shape after our 30 days at home and 2 weeks on the ship, because we double timed everywhere we went there. Just because we were in pretty bad shape.
A lot of training?
Yeah. Not much military training, just exercising. Yeah, I don't think there's any. We stayed in an old army barracks there in Camp Drake, and I noticed I didn't smoke, but they had tin cans on the posts in the barracks. It said, "Be sure to put your butts in here. This place will burn down in 5 minutes." It was an old wooden barracks that they thought wouldn't stick much of a fire.
So then, when did you arrive in Korea and where?
We took a train from Tokyo down to the south. I'm not sure whether it was Sasebo or where we did get a ship. But the ship we took from there was something like a ferry boat, a Japanese ship. It had rooms off to the side and grass mats on the floor. So it wasn't a military ship, it didn't look like, so I don't know what it was. But that just took us over to Busan.
When was that?
I don't have the dates on that.
Month? It was in the May?
It would have been in June.
June.
Because it was May 21st, and then 2 weeks over, and then a week or so in Tokyo, so it's into June, yeah.
What was the kind of first impression when you arrived in Busan for the first time? You'd never been in that country, never heard about it before.
No, never heard. Well, we didn't see too much of the town. We just went in and they put us on buses, I think, and then we went on a train from there. We didn't stay in Tucson very long. Just drove through the town, and you could see that it was in trouble, war trouble or something, because there was so much military around there. That was, I guess, after the Busan perimeter area. They moved back up north, but it was quite a change from Indiana.
Must be.
Yeah.
Were you scared?
I don't think so. Like I said, I just never believed till I was shot at that I was ever going to get into the war. But in fact, on the way over on the ship, they were talking about peace talks at that time.
Oh.
So we thought we'd just get over here to clean up the mess. They took us to Inji. Is that a town?
Inje.
Inje.
Uh-huh.
I think we stopped maybe at Tegu. I know we went through Tegu on the train. Oh, they put us on a train, which was just boxcars with some shelves on the side for bunks. And you go through the tunnels with the smoke blowing in, and I saw my first A-frame there. They stopped along someplace, and somebody was loading up his A-frame with munitions and so forth. And but it wasn't a very comfortable ride. I don't know how long that took. But we went to some place they call a replacement depot, where they assigned us to our unit. And they kept calling for truck drivers or other work that you might be able to do. And then they asked for office. A friend of mine and I were both clerical workers in the States, so we jumped up and they sent us to the infantry, even though they did say, ask if we could type and all that sort of thing. And we obviously didn't.
So you belong to Second Infantry Division?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they were in reserve. I think they'd had some rough battles, Chipgong-ni and I forget what else, but so they need lots of replacements, so that's where we went. Yeah.
On the way to Inje, what did you see? How was the country at the time? Do you remember any scene?
No, I don't remember anything specific. No, I just know, well, everywhere I went, it seemed like it had been blown up or something.
So tell me about the typical duties of your service. You were stationed in Inje for the whole time, or what happened? Just tell me about it.
Well, in Inje, after I was there a little while, they were in training, and they were doing an operation, attack on this ridge, and they were using live ammunition, artillery support, air support, and at night we were going in the night just like we were fighting something, except there was nobody there. And I've heard of friendly fire, but I've never actually seen that occur, and maybe they just don't report it. But while we were on that exercise, we had a plane drop napalm on one of our positions. We had an artillery short round. You know what that is?
No.
Well, artillery is supposed to go over.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was defective or something, and it landed on not my position, but ahead of us. And I carried one of the victims, or wounded down, or part way. He had his foot blown off. And so I know there is friendly fire. Then after that, that lasted, must have been until August. In July, late July or 1st of August, we relieved whoever was on the punch bowl. I think the Marines maybe had taken the punch bowl.
Oh, so you were relieved from punch bowl?
No,
released?
we relieved them.
Ah.
The people that took the punch bowl went to a reserve or wherever, and we relieved them there, and we stayed there about a month, up around the edge of the punch bowl, just defending it. And we would run patrols. One time we went out, we were going to burn a village down.
Why?
Someone said that they were coming out there at night and installing artillery pieces in there and then firing at us the next day. So we just went out and burned the village down.
Mm-hmm.
But the bunchbowl, the edges are pretty high, so when you go out there on patrol, you got a long walk out and a long walk back. But that's what we did for almost a month. And if you went, like you had to go, I had a tooth pulled while I was there, so I had to walk down the back side of the hill to the medic, to the MASH unit. Then after that, we went to the Bloody Ridge, which is right next to the Punch Bowl. We observed that. We were the reserve regiment or company or reserve division was. They put us up on the side of a hill, and we were just sitting there watching while they took Bloody Ridge. We saw all the activity. We had just like a theater almost. But we didn't know that was coming to us in Heartbreak Ridge because we went there next.
Was there any dangerous moment that you might have lost your life?
At that point?
Yeah.
Well, there was firing going on all around us, but we weren't the target. They were the I think it was the 9th Regiment, part of the 2nd Division was fighting the North Koreans on Bloody Ridge, but we just got to see what was going on.
Well, who was your main enemies at the time? Chinese or North Koreans?
North Koreans.
North Koreans? How was the life there? Were you always moving, or you?
Yes, we were at or near the front lines all the time I was there. We were back in reserve training or up on the front line defending a position or attacking. The only major attacks that I was involved in was Heartbreak Ridge, which took a month. But Heartbreak
Ridge?
Read about it. On September 13th, it was the first attack on Heartbreak Ridge, and we went to the whole regiment was involved in that. We're going up the side of the hill, and there are 3 peaks on top of that ridge. And we were going up towards one, and we could see another unit going up another ridge line up to the top. And that was when I heard the most calls for medics. It was our Fox company was going up another ridge line parallel to us, and they were just calling medic right after another. So for the first 2 weeks, we were just going up and down the hillsides there, getting pushed back.
Was it nobody's land? Once you take it and they take it back?
Yeah, right. After we were there 2 weeks, I guess they figured it out that they could reinforce themselves from the backside of the hills. Mm. They just had a never-ending supply of troops and equipment. And so after 2 weeks, they sent me back in reserve, and then they brought tanks up through the valley on both sides of the Heartbreak Ridge, so they could have more firepower and knock out more bunkers and that sort of thing.
That's where the Heartbreak Ridge, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about the stories there.
Yes.
Mhm.
So in the middle of it, lasted a month, but in the middle of it, they decided to take a different approach because all they were doing was going up the hill and getting run off. So then they had the tanks up there, and they got rid of a lot of those bunkers because the bunkers were huge bunkers that just had, you know, something land right on them, wouldn't even phase them. Some of them. So after 2 days in so-called reserve, then we had to go back up the hill. And then we started more attacks, but we had a better chance of winning. And finally we had the French battalion with us too.
Uh-huh.
And on the final hill, it was my company, K Company, and met up with the French company. And that was the end of their occupation, Heartbreak Ridge. Then when we set up defenses there so they wouldn't counterattack, and then I had to go back. This is the French were with us all the time, but I never saw a Frenchman until this day. They asked me to go back over to the French company and have them relieve us so we could go on back to reserve. So I went back over across the hill and led a French officer over there and told him where to bring his people.
What did you miss most?
Well, the freedom to go and come as you wanted to and not have to have somebody telling you what to do. Because I was just a PFC, so every move we made, I had to be told.
What did you miss most at the time while you were in Korea?
Oh, just the freedom to go where you wanted to and not, didn't like sleeping on the ground. And
did you see many die?
quite a few, yes.
Quite a few. Does that still bothers you?
Oh, not now.
You don't have PTSD or anything
No.
like that? No, okay.
No, I didn't suffer any problems with it. On that next to last day on Heartbreak Ridge, I know I lost three of my close friends. Right when I told you we met the French company, and that was the end of the day before. We had tried to assault that same hill by ourselves, and were pushed back again, like we were before, and we lost 3 people right there. Or I have 3 close friends. Lost a lot more people than that. 3 that I knew well.
Did you know anything about communism at the time?
No.
Then why were you there?
Why was I there?
Yeah.
Well, I was drafted and told to go. I didn't question it. Oh, I guess I knew about communism, but didn't think much about it.
Do you have any regret?
No. Glad I made it and glad I went, but no, I'm not. Don't regret it at all.
Did you have a girlfriend at the time?
Nothing serious, no.
And did you write a letter?
No.
You haven't? You didn't write a letter at all?
No.
Oh.
Not to any girls that I...
No, not just to girl, but to your family.
Oh, yes. In fact, there's some in here.
Oh.
I wrote a letter August 1st to my sister. That's when we were up around the punch bowl, and I told her something about that. See, the 2nd Division had a French battalion and a Dutch battalion that were attached to our regiments. And I told her how they were spaced all around the ridge there. The Dutch over here and the French over there. I don't know how I knew that, but And then when I was in reserve in the middle of Heartbreak Ridge, I wrote a letter to her, and it's in the stuff here.
You want to show me the letter that you wrote back to your sister?
And this is a book that my grandson made, but he did a lot of it. That's the one.
Wow, this is the letter that you wrote back to
my sister. Well, in the middle of Heartbreak Ridge, when I went back and they put the tanks in.
Could you summarize what you wrote there? How is it that's so small, the envelope?
Because this is a book that my grandson made. I sent him the original, or not the original.
Oh, okay, so they reduced it.
He reduced it. And she also sent me this magazine, which has an article on Heartbreak Ridge.
Can you show? Can you show?
While I was over there.
What is it?
This is Heartbreak Ridge. This is
Where were you?
I came up this hill right here. This is me right here. And this is where I told you Fox County was going up here to this hill, and they were yelling for medics. Then we came around and went up his way, and then all during that month we were all over that place.
Wow.
This is the last hill, the 851. That's the one where we met the French, and it was over.
When you look at this map and the picture, what do you?
I think, how did I climb all that? Because we would go out and move
And
over.
let me see the title. This is Heartbreak Ridge.
Right.
And when did you get this magazine?
In October or November. Let's see. It's an October 51 magazine, so I probably got it in November. Not this magazine. I got this at an antique store since then. She sent me one in Korea.
Oh, okay.
And
But
I tracked one of them down.
so same one, right? Same issue.
Same issue, yes.
But you lost the original one. Your
Oh,
sister.
yeah. You didn't carry anything over there. You're just
Okay.
lucky to have your shirt on your back, let alone carry magazines around.
And then what happened? You were relieved from Heartbreak Ridge.
Yes, and
then where did you go?
back in reserve for a while, and then some training, and then we spent the rest of the time, I think, on doing patrols out into the head of the front of the lines, and
Back in again to Heartbreak Ridge?
no, we never went back there.
Where did you go?
I think around Kumla,
Kumhwa?
in that area.
Uh-huh.
That's where we were in reserve, and then we would go up on the line, we'd relieve people on the line, and we'd run patrols out in the valley. And at the end of Heartbreak Ridge, they made me a corporal and made me a machine gunner.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 weeks after that, they made me a sergeant. Then they made me a sergeant first class. And since they'd lost so many people, they needed a platoon leader, so for a short time I was acting platoon leader, which is supposed to be an officer's job. But anyway, they finally got an officer in. But for a time there, I was never a squad leader. I went from rifleman to machine gunner to platoon sergeant, I guess.
Hmm. So when did you leave Korea?
It was in March. I don't know the date. It was March when I served 9 months. They were rotating everybody
Yeah.
in 9. So I left in March.
52?
Yes. I took a train to Incheon
Mm-hmm.
and got on a landing craft, LST or something. They took us over to Sasebo. We stayed there a few days, and then we got on the ship, the SS Antolak, A-N-T-O-L-A-K, and 2 weeks to Seattle. Took a train home. Then I had to go back and serve the rest of my time in the States, of course.
How much were you paid during your service in Korea?
I don't even remember. It was minimum wage, I'm sure, whatever that was at the time.
What did you do with the money?
Since my father died, I made an allotment for my mother, so most of that money went home. Never knew any Korean people. Never met any Korean people while I was there.
Uh-huh.
One little boy that helped us around the camp, but as far as the people, even the ROC soldiers, which were fighting alongside of us, but I never had any connection with them. So I know nothing about the Korean people.
Have you thought that why am I here?
Oh yes, I thought that many times. And every time you would see somebody get wiped out, well, you'd think, well, am I next, or am I going to get out of here alive? But it wasn't that bad, I guess, looking back at it.
Did you believe in God?
Oh yes.
What did you pray?
Well, I prayed when things got close. I didn't pray a lot, but I prayed, when things got real close, whether mortar rounds coming in, things like that.
Mm.
On the first, when we first got to the top of the hill on Heartbreak, I know we dug somebody I've forgotten now, and I dug a foxhole right near the top, and the company CP was right behind us, and we made it for comfort. And then they started throwing mortar rounds in on us, and they were just falling all around. We wish we'd built a smaller opening, because we felt like we were in a wash tub there, a bathtub, where they could. And a round did come in at the CP and killed this first sergeant right there next to us, 20, 30 feet away. And going up the ridge, I know they were sending mortars at us, and we had. I saw up ahead of us three GIs jumped into a previous crater, and then another came right in, got all 3 of them. So it's.
And you weren't scared to see those?
Oh, of course I was scared, but I didn't run.
That's too hard.
I just thought that was part of it.
What did you do after you came back from Korea?
Well, we went to, I had to go back to Camp Atterbury in Indiana and serve out my time. And they put me in a engineer unit and sent me to school for about a week. And then they said, well, you're short term, you're going to be here a couple of months. We don't need to train you to be an engineer. So they just put me back in the barracks, and I was doing details and cleaning the place up. And For a while, I was driving a garbage truck. I was a sergeant, so I got to drive it. But that was just wasted time.
Looking back, go ahead.
No, then after I served 21 months altogether, then I went home.
Looking back all those years, the moments and experiences, what do you get out of it? How do you see that all happened to you 60 years ago?
Well, I don't know. It was good for me, I think, because it made me more, able to handle life better by going through all that.
Is that right?
If you've been through something like that, little things don't bother you anymore. You can take things in stride. But I was glad to get out. I wouldn't want to do it again.
There are several criminal veterans that they will go back to Korea if something happening like that, and they are willing to do another round. What do you think about that?
I don't think I would. When I was younger, I probably should have gone back just to visit. The revisit programs. I should have done it. It's too late now.
Why is it too late?
Well, I'm not in shape to travel. I wouldn't want to travel that far.
You look very healthy.
85 years old.
Hey. Doesn't matter. I see many 85.
Oh, I know.
In Korea, as a program. What do you think is the legacy of Korean War veterans?
Well, I think they saved South Korea from being a duplicate of North Korea, which is a disaster, or a part of North Korea. And they've done a lot of good things since then that I think they're an industrial nation. They've made a lot of advances over there, which they couldn't have done if we'd have left them alone.
Yeah.
I think that's set a good example for the rest of the world. When I came back, I didn't even think about it for a long time till I heard about this Korean War Veterans Association, and I looked up a couple of people that I had known over there. But before that, I didn't pay any attention to what was happening over there. But then I got into it, realized that we had really done something good. I didn't think too much about it the first 20 or 30 years.
You didn't really know, and you really didn't think about that, right?
No, I didn't think much about it then, but after getting involved with this group, when I came back, some few people had missed him, but they didn't ask me about the war. I don't think anybody ever did ask me about the war in the first few years. Like they didn't even know what happened. Just glad to see me back and safe and sound.
Do you have any message to our young generation about your experience in the Korean War?
No, except it is a good experience. Not a good experience, but it helps you with your rest of your life because it makes you understand what's going on maybe better and know you can handle everything if you go through something like that. Handle small things.
Do you have grandchildren at the age of high school or college or just college graduates?
College. This fellow that made this is a junior at Duke, or no, sophomore at Duke University.
Could you hold it? and tell me who made it, his name and when.
His name is Spencer Ware, and I think he made it when he was a freshman in high school.
And that's your grandson?
Yes.
That's very sweet. Huh? The story of James L. Parker, Korean War. And he is now where?
At Duke University.
Duke, what does he study?
I'm not sure.
You know, my foundation created Korean War Veterans Youth Corps. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this year will be the second convention, and about 150 Korean War veterans' grandchildren will gather in Washington, D.C. from July 25th to 28th. And
this year?
Yeah. It's going to be in the Hyatt Arlington Hotel, which is close to Georgetown and close to the National Mall. And my foundation cover all the expenses except the half of the transportation. And they're going to talk about how they can keep the legacy of Korean War and the Korean War veterans, their grandparents. Would you be willing to talk to him, see if he is interested in?
Sure. You got something I don't have much influence over him, but I can talk to him about it.
You know, we had a gathering last year in Washington, D.C., and this is going to be the second.
Is that where Ivy was last year?
Yes.
She talked about
yes,
that.
Yes,
yes.
Yeah. And I'm helping, my foundation is helping the Youth Corps so that they can be on their own. And it's going to be annual meetings in Washington, D.C. from July 25th to 28th. And next year, the Korean War veterans will meet there for their annual meeting too. It will be very nice, and if he comes, he can also involve in the history book project. There are 2 short coverage on the Korean War in American history book, and this Youth Corps, grandchildren of Korean War veterans, want to do something about it. So please talk to him and ask him to contact me, okay?
Okay.
Or you can, talk to Ivy Bell. This is my brochure.
Okay.
And this is the picture that I collected from Korean War veterans and make it as a mosaic picture of the Korean Peninsula.
You got a picture of Colonel Stone.
Yeah, I had an interview with him. And please check the website there, www.kwvdm.org, okay? Digital Memorial. And that's where your interview will be uploaded.
Okay.
And if you have pictures, I know you brought some, and please work with Ivy Bell so that she can scan it and send it to me. And when you meet with Ivy, you need to tell what this picture is about, each picture, okay?
Each picture.
In when and where and what, as much as you can remember. Any message that you want to leave to this interview?